Onegaishimasu. And we'll just spend a couple moments in Zazen. Again, whatever position you need to be in is fine. Two basic focuses in Zazen. One is the posture and one is the breathing. The posture, we want a nice, open, spacious body structure, so not slumped, not collapsed. So my favorite definition of good posture is open, spacious body structure. Open structure. That posture, whatever variations on bad structure is, basically comes down to collapsed and tight, collapsed, condensed. So the opposite of that, open, spacious body structure. A little bit more specific with that is the spine. The spine is long and open. The chin is in a little bit because usually people are bending back a little bit with their head, kinking the vertebrae of the neck. So often we'll say the chin is down about half an inch or in about half an inch. That's just to allow the neck to be part of the line of the spine. But one basic detail, spine is long and open. A couple more pieces of information for good posture. Shoulders are down, sitting straight down, so shoulders fall away from the neck, from the earlobes. In Tai Chi, we call them sitting shoulders. A lot of people carry the shoulders up high. In fact, you want the shoulder plane to rest right on top of the rib cage. So the shoulder girdle is actually resting on top of the uppermost rib. Anything else is tension. Spine long and open, shoulders relaxed down, belly released. That's posture. Breathing is basic abdominal breathing. Tension breathing is breathing in the chest. We want to cultivate a more whole, full body breathing. Breathing in, the belly expands. Breathing out, the belly sinks back in. So on the most basic level, Zazen, seated meditation, we focus on posture and we focus on good centered breathing. Eyes have a soft gaze, looking a little bit downward. Soft gaze, meaning we're using our peripheral vision just as much as our direct vision. So sitting nice and open. Breath is deep in the abdomen. Soft gaze, forward and slightly down. And consciously using the out breath. So each exhale, we consciously release a little more tension. Consciously releasing tension, each out breath. While we maintain that open structure, released abdomen, soft eyes. And slowly coming up. And we'll go into a light horse stance, just because we're probably still not warmed up yet. So not a deep horse stance, but in other words, feet a little wider than shoulder width, knees out a little bit with the feet. So feet out a little bit, knees over the feet. And we're going to do some arm swings, shifting, returning the hips, let the arms swing. And you can add a little weight shift. So we are, part of what we are learning here is releasing the arms, releasing, opening the shoulder joints, relaxing the upper body. So there's actually a lot of training just in a simple warm-up exercise. We can call it a warm-up exercise, but all these warm-ups are actually training. There's a lot of detail we get into with even just the warm-up moves. But let's talk about a couple of things with each of these moves for now. I am learning, part of the training process is to learn to relax and not do things overly muscular. So I'm not swinging my arms are flung on my body movement. So on the most basic level, our movements in Aikido are whole body movements. Whatever we do with the arms, it's actually coming from our whole body movement. So this is a very, very simple example of that. So the way I put it often is the arms do not move, but the arms are moved. The arms don't move themselves. Arms are moved by holistic movement of the entire body. And so we get better and better at releasing tension, better and better at being natural, and better at not doing extra stuff. Arms are just dangling with gravity. And more experienced people, you want to work on pressing that leg down, pressing that foot down to cause the weight shift and hip turn. We don't want to throw our mats around. We don't want to use the upper body. We're using the ground, much larger force than us. We get to connect with the earth. Press into the ground, the earth pushes back. Press into the ground, that shifts the weight and turn the hips for you. And release the abdomen and breathe into the belly. And gently winding down. And bring your feet in a little bit closer to shoulder width and pretty much straight and even, but make sure the knees are bent a little bit. Equal stretch through both arms. We always want to have equal awareness through both arms. A lot of times one arm is doing something different than the other, going in different directions. But we want to have our awareness even and equal. Here's a good example of that. One arm goes up, one arm goes down. I want to be equally aware of both arms, equally stretching through both arms. Little side bend, pushing through. More experienced people, you actually want to send your breath through your arms. Breathing into your belly, out of your belly, through your whole body, through your arms. And more experienced people, you energize and take a time. Your attention is on the edges of the forearms, a little finger, energize the hand blades. And little arch to that corner. Again, equal awareness, equal stretch through both arms. It's real easy to focus on one arm, the more dominant one, or the one that's moving more or higher. We want to equalize our awareness. That equalizes our brain. And heels a little closer, knees bent, hands at the center, hip circles. Hip circles the other way. Shoulder circles alternatingly, and that really gets the spine involved as well. And other way. And the knees. Supporting the knees with the hands. Circles. Circles the other way. Diverging circles. If your knees aren't really warmed up yet, or if they're a little bit stiff, just little circles. If you have more flexibility, and you're warmed up, you can make bigger circles. And converging circles. Now I'm going to turn sideways so you can see this action here. Coming up, I don't come up using my lower back. I bring my knees forward and my hips forward. My hips come underneath my body to bring me up. So that saves the lower back. And I use more of a whole body action to come up. And actually, we can turn this into a warm-up move and a releasing opening move for the spine. So I sit back a little bit and I bring my tailbone forward and I roll up my spine one vertebrae at a time. I sit back, bring the hip through, right, bring the hip forward, and I roll up through my spine right through the top of my head. So that becomes a very nice warm-up move for the hips and the entire spine. We call this the spinal wave. So I sit back and down. Imagine someone pulling a string on your tailbone, and that draws one vertebrae forward, then the other, then the other, then the other, rolling up to the very top of the head. Breathing the whole time. Good. Now coming up, we can actually do that sideways too. Imagine the tailbones pulled to the side. One vertebrae at a time is dragged over. Tailbones pulled to the other side. One vertebrae at a time is dragged over. This one I like to think of seaweed, a long piece of seaweed at the bottom of the lake, swaying with the current. Good. Coming back to center. And chin drops down to the chest and rolling the chin along the chest. So just in front, letting gravity take the weight of the head. So gravity's providing us with that stretch. We're not adding anything muscularly at all. Breathing the whole while. And to the center of the chest, slowly up, and a little turn over the shoulder. The shoulder. Good. Swing the arms up and down. Just letting gravity do that for you. Releasing those shoulder joints. Now, crossing sideways, find a natural rhythm, and bring one knee up, then the other. Okay, so it's a basic program, wake up program, foundational movements, stances, and principles. We're going to go into what we call ready stance. Our most basic stance is called Hami no Kamai. Hami no Kamai. Hami no Kamai means half stance, half body. So I don't want to be full frontal. I don't want to be facing fully. It's too big of a target, a lot of exposed vital areas. I turn at an angle, half body. Hami no Kamai means half body stance. Now, to really give you a sense where that comes from, it comes from our weapons work. And this is a good example that we work with the wooden sword and the wooden staff. It gives you a good example that these are just training tools to work the mind-body connection, to get the shape of our body more clear, get our movements more clear. This is a really simple example of that. This is how we hold the sword, and virtually the same thing with the staff. This is how we hold the sword, again, half body. I don't want to be fully frontal like that, half body. You'll see this is exactly our ready stance, empty hand. Exactly the same shape. When we're empty hand, we have our own swords called tegatana, hand sword, hand blade. Blade of the elbow, right through the forearm to the base of the hand. So these become my swords. The tip is the fingertips are the tip of the sword. Edge of the forearm is the blade of the sword. And in fact, the elbow is the butt end of the handle of the sword. So this is the hand, this is the blade, hand blade, edge of the forearm, right through the edge of the hand, tip of the fingers, at the elbow. So we have two swords, empty hand. Again, they're called tegatana, that's hand blade. So one of the most basic things we have in the Wipeout program is a basic forward stance, Hami no Kamai. So it is a slight forward stance. So if this is 50-50, it's about 60% forward. Back is straight. More experienced people work on rolling the elbows forward, as in Minucci, rolling the elbows forward, pull the shoulders right down. Then we also have switching Hanmi and doing that in an integrated fashion where we stay connected and balanced, stable, coordinated, integrated, switching, not being vulnerable, not being out of balance. So the back foot comes up and that brings the back hand up. Front foot comes back. Back foot comes up, front foot goes back. So we're keeping vertical, balanced, integrated, coordinated in the sense that the legs move the arms. Again, the arms do not do it. Arms do not move, arms are moved. Now we also work on not bobbing up and down. that bob up and down, which is a very common thing if you're not trained, is your balance is compromised. You're not stable. So we want to make that switch without bobbing up and down. And mechanically, what that really means is the knees stay bent. So you don't stand up and then go into another stance. You don't stand up and then re-enter the stance. You stay in the stance. Notice how I'm rotating around my center line, around the vertical axis. Again, keeping those knees bent, stay stable, and more stealth-like. So Hami no Kamae is ready stance, and switching the stance is one of our most foundational movements. The movements that we go into, the more involved movements, all are based on this structure. So in fact, let's go into now another basic movement, Uchi. That's this one here. It's based on Hami no Kamae, but I'm going to use both blades here, and I'm going to be more frontal. So from the hips, here, it's like a roof pop shape or an A shape. Blades are forward, not palms. The more experienced people, again, driving that movement from the ground itself. Press into that back foot, then be forward, press into the front foot, then back. Experienced people want to make sure you're not leaning. The front toes, we don't want them to pop up, otherwise you're leaning back and you're ungrounded. Forward, we don't want the heel to pop up, otherwise I'm ungrounded. Vulnerable, exposed, pop out. So again, roll those elbows forward. Okay, senpai, make sure you have the largest possible arc. You have fullest possible extension, but without locking the elbow and without popping up the shoulder. So big as you can make it without raising the shoulders and locking the elbows. So without compromising those basic things, it's as big an extension as you can make, including on the way down. So watch this. This is mainly for senpai or Mike and Aladdin. When you come down, people often do this. See how my elbows have bent? Don't really want that. You might have a good extension out here, a really nice extension out here. But then a lot of times people, when they come back, people will bend their elbows here. Now notice, if I use that elbow bend, watch. If I show the Manucci part of it, you can see that that's an elbow bend we don't want. It's too short, curtailed. So I don't want that elbow bend. I want this Manucci shape. If my elbow is bent in Manucci, that bend is going to be weak. My muscles have to take all the force, not my structure. So I want to keep a nice open structure. Just like a sword strike. And so this is mainly for senpai. If I do the same problem with a sword strike, everybody, after a little bit of training, everybody knows we want the sword way out there. But if I do it like a Manucci, we're talking about we don't want, that's like a sword strike like this. Again, too much of a bend in the elbow. Everything is curtailed and foreshortened. I don't want this. I want it all out, even at the end. Even at the end. So if you look at this shape here, and I simply put the sword down, my arms are still extended, not shortened. That's for training. In a real situation, I might have my arms wherever I need them in a real situation. But we don't want to be training this because then we're not training our mind and our body to be open, extended, lengthened. The mind is extending and flowing out. The body reflects that. So this is coming into tightness. Everybody does. So we want to stay with consistent training. So we're training our body and nervous system and our joints open. Again. More experienced people with senpai, watch out for bending your elbow more here to be exactly the same shape through the whole movement. Okay, now let's do one or two more things on this white belt program. We do this with a turn, a pivot. So let's work on the pivot separately first. Called tenkai. Tenkai is a pivot. So we take that basic stance that we had, slightly forward. Not going to worry about the arms for a moment, just to work on the footwork. I shift back, turn on the heel, turn on the heel to shift forward. Shift back and turn on the heel, turn on the heel to shift forward. So always go back to a forward stance. Go from the side. Forward stance, shift back, turn on the heel, forward stance. Shift back, turn on the heel, forward stance. Hang up from the string that keeps the knees bent. Keep your center of gravity low. So just like we talked about switching stance, I don't want to bob up and down. I want to stay stable and grounded and mobile, but also stable and grounded. So I want to make sure I don't pop up here and down. I don't want to pop up and down. So keep the knees bent, hips hanging, shift back, turn on the heel, shift forward. Now, this basic tenkai or pivot, we simply do in the ready position, hami no kamai position, and we simply switch the arms as we turn. Arms are switched by the footwork. I'm going to take a quick look at senpai, make sure that they're not doing anything untoward. It's a basic movement, but sometimes we forget about details or there's things that we're not noticing. Aladdin, that's very, very good. Stay stable. So Mike, maybe bend your knees a bit more. Have your hips always falling, always sinking. Yeah, bend those knees. So Marlene, you see how you can see Aladdin's feet. He turns on one heel, then the other heel. Turns on one heel. This is one of our basic movements. So you're learning to keep your posture and your integrity and your balance as you start to move more and more. And martially speaking, this is dealing with multiple attackers or multiple angles. Of course, on a very, very basic level, but you're learning to deal with multiple angles and still keep your integrity, your structure, your balance, your shape, your structure. Okay, that's looking better, Senpai. Good. Okay, so let's move into the movements from Aladdin's program. And Marlene, just have fun with us and follow along. As long as you can go slower than what we're doing. You don't have to do every repetition, but feel free to join in as much as you like. So Aladdin, let's see here. Okay. Shomanuchi, ready stance. And these are going to be strikes with the hand blade. Shoman means the front of the head. So Senpai, so Mike and Aladdin, remember to push off that back heel to turn your hips to raise the elbow. So if I illustrate a couple times, so I don't just step and strike. If I step and strike, I'm ungrounded there. It's not solid, not grounded, it's not integrated. So I don't think about stepping, I think about turning my hips. And my hips turn because I press off that back foot. So pressing off the back foot turns the hips, and that makes the step. Turning the hips is what drives my elbow up. As I land with my weight, that drops the strike down. And you want to finish the strike at about Chudan level. So that would be too low, and you're open. So we're starting with a real basic strike then first before we do HQ program. So turn the hips over the head, cut down. Of course, the other hand is alive and for protecting center line, slide back. So turn the hips to get that elbow up. Step is the striking down. Other hand is equally alive. Remember I was saying, no matter arms are doing different things, you have equal awareness, equal aliveness, equal flow through both arms. Even when one arm seems to be stationary, the other arm is doing the movement. Yeah, stationary arm isn't actually stationary inside. Energetically, it's flowing just as much as the other one. Okay, now let's do the other side, okay? So you're switching your Hami no Kamai. Push off the back foot, that turns your hips, that drives the elbow up. Step and then cut down. And so senpai, come right up the center line. Yeah, that's looking pretty good, Mike. Yeah, coming right up center line, coming down center line. That's right. That's very good. The other hand is not passive. It's active and ready. Ready defensively, ready offensively. Okay, senpai is looking pretty good. So we're going to add footwork, Irimi Sugiyashi, basic footwork. Offline with the front foot, little turn with the back foot. The other difference, as you remember, is it's going to be the front arm doing the Shoman cut, not the back arm. Okay, so if I demonstrate a couple, stay in a forward stance, Irimi Sugiyashi, and cut. The timing of that cut is that the back foot slides into place. If the back foot slides into place, that's the biomechanics for the strike, for the cut. The front foot comes offline. I raise the sword, back foot slides into place, cuts down. Okay. Keep your weight in the forward stance, in this case, the left leg. So each. Keep the extension through both arms. Keep. Go. Keep the other hand active. Roke. Seat. Touch. Okay. So that's very good, Marlene. You're just focusing on the footwork. That's actually a great approach. That's a wise approach. Very good. Good for you. Focus on the footwork. Okay, let's switch to the other side. So right side forward. So right foot comes offline. Back foot turns offline about 45 degrees. So this is getting out of the way. So we call getting offline. Getting offline. Front foot moves first, offline. Back foot turns about 45 degrees. Keep the weight in the right leg or forward leg. So we raise the sword as we step offline. So pushing off the back foot raises the sword, sliding the back foot into place, cuts down the sword. Pushing off the back foot raises the sword, sliding the foot back into position, brings the Shoman strike down. Keep the other hand ready and active. Each. Knee. Now. Knee. Go. Rope. Make sure you're not leaning forward at all. Seat. Touch. Both hands active. Okay, now let's do the other footwork with the same Shoman strike. The other footwork, Marlene, is we're going to move the back foot first. We just moved the front foot first and then turned offline. And now we're going to move the back foot first. And then the front foot comes offline. So if we start with the right leg forward, that means my left foot, back foot, is going to come offline first. And now my front foot's gonna come back to 45 degrees. So with the right leg forward, back foot, left foot comes offline. My front foot, my right foot comes back 45 degrees. So now we'll be striking with the backhand, starts as the backhand and becomes the front hand. Same biomechanics. As I push off that back foot, that raises the sword. As my right foot slides into position, that cuts down the sword. As my back foot, left foot pushes off, that raises my left hand. And if my right foot slides into position behind me, that brings the hand down. Okay? So that's each. Stay in a forward stance. Knee. On. Both hands active, equally active. Cheek. Go. Rope. Seats. Yeah, Mike, that's looking good. Sharp and keeping equal extension. Looking very good. Touch. Good. It's looking good, Mladen. Very nice. Let's do the other side. So left side forward, E.E, left side, forward stance. The right foot, back foot's gonna come offline. And the left foot, front foot comes back 45 degrees. And then we stay in a forward stance. So the right knee is a little bit bent. So the left leg is forward to start with. Back foot comes offline. Left foot, front foot turns 45 degrees. Stay in the right leg, forward stance. So pushing off that back foot is going to raise my right hand. As my left foot slides in position, that brings the hand straight down. As my back foot comes offline, pushes off, raises the right hand. As the left foot slides in position, it brings the left hand straight down. Each. Knee. On. Knee. Go. Rope. Seats. It's okay. Excellent. That's all we have time for today. So let's finish with Misogi. Misogi is deep breathing to cleanse and clear the mind and relax and open the body. From our center, we breathe in, expand out. So mentally, expand outwardly, breathe out, we come back to our center. Just below the navel. Breathe in, expand out like a star. From just below the navel, breathe out, settle back to that same place. With the mind, move everything. The body follows the mind. Breathe in, the belly expands, everything expands out.